Should I give a hi for everyone who is watching? I don't know.
Sure.
Should I? Okay, so
Whatever
welcome
you want.
the people that are coming from YouTube. We are here at
No,
the.
I think there's a small delay. Wait, excellent. It says excellent connection. Yeah, now you're live.
Should I? Oh yeah, I listen myself. Okay. Um. Well, my name is Rafaele, and I am very thankful for having um, this invitation from Constantinos to be here with these amazing guys. And this is part of the class from Constantinos Sonic Arts. And we are going to be talking about a project that I've been producing. And these guys, they will come up with questions. We're going to discuss about the concept of reprogrammability. And yeah, I will go I will show some links, and we can also check some presentations. I prepared some material, but mainly we're gonna check each other's faces. So let me see.
Shall I introduce you first to the people?
Yeah, sure.
Rafaela? So welcome everyone in the Sonic Art Talk session. This session aims to host open discussions with artists and creators with engaging projects in music and digital arts. Today, I'm very glad to host Rafaele Andrade from the Hague's Royal Conservatorium, where she studies in the sonology department. She's a music pioneer in the field of modern and experimental music with a background in conducting, composition, production, cello, live coding, and sonology. She develops artworks merging these crossovers into innovative practices with the technology, social inclusion, sustainability, and fair music distribution. Rafaele has a passion for social initiatives, producing during her young career an orchestra of Brazilian music when she was 17 years old. And at 22, she curated a UNESCO project to promote Latin American women composers that was played in Radio Delas. Rafaele's work aims to facilitate research in empowering audiences through hybrid instruments. For this, she will give us a presentation about her latest project named KNUR. I hope I'm saying correctly, named KNUR, a
Yes, you're right.
reconfiguration of a classic and Baroque cello format into a reprogrammable and solar-powered system. KNURL is part of a network of research and ideas on prototyping interactive instruments for performance of live computer music based on the idea of reprogrammability, a concept that triggered my interest in this work. Alvin Toffler, an American writer and futurist whose works are discussing the digital revolution, noted that the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Thank you, Rafaele, for joining us today.
Thank you, Constantinos, for this amazing production. Well, I'm going to share my screen. Are you always all able to see? I think I. So, can you give me a thumb up, Constantinos? If yeah, all right, thanks. I just have a quick show, a quick view of some slides that involve my project. Kinro is the name of my instrument and the name of this project. Um, so for the ones that never saw this before, or they just want to have an idea how it looks, uh, it looks like this, without the head at this moment here. But Snurl is basically the instrument that I created, basically a cello, and it has 16 strings, and it's basically the host of this concept about reprogrammability. This project to build an instrument involves a lot of crossovers, and the good part, I think the unique part about this project is that I have a little bit of experience in composition, conducting, performance, and my instrument is the cello. So when I prototype, when I design, I know exactly the issues that each area of music production has been taking. And when I'm gonna test, I know exactly what should I do, which procedures should I do, um, for for which person I can show. So the test part is really quick, and that makes the projects very, somehow has a good symbiosis. I have a lot of also support from all these supervisors in the conservatory. And as you can see, this is some kind of like a circle where you can see there is a lot of things when you are thinking to design an instrument. And that cannot be only a product, but like a digital, physical instrument. It can also mean an interface or even a sound installation. So, and this is basically how you're gonna interact in which kind of approaches in areas you are crossing. So you are crossing between music practice, you are crossing between research, education, and also a movement, like the way that you are behaving. You are an artist. You are aware, or like you are really responsible for what you are bringing. And it can be also just a concept, but it can be also related to a movement of your cultural background or position. And of course, there is also the part of documentation, which is nowadays we cannot avoid. Everything we do, there is some documentation. And the way that I'm designing this project and approaching, it's basically creating an instrument that is those those icons here above. So it's an instrument that it belongs to a specific practice, brings a specific concept or a programming skill, and that also is an artwork or can produce, can host artwork. It's a design experience, a design thinking experiment, but it's also a product. And all these things, they are part of my education research, which is this title here. So previously my bachelor was about designing a reprogrammable instrument. That was the title of my project. And now in my master, I am not interested anymore to design thinking on the symbiosis of all my approaches, but more about which audience do I want to bring my instruments, because that's already a very different level of thinking. You're not thinking just anymore about you and how much things you need, how many features for your music, but you are thinking what does the other wants. And that was I was interested in being a composer. I've been always interested in to find a way to equalize the hierarchy between performer and listener. And I thought, like with Knurl, I can find a way to test and investigate new ways of interactivity and behavior. So, with this quick introduction, and I'm gonna navigate a bit in the website that I'm always posting and updating info there. You can always check. So it's basically the website now. It's a platform where you can see all the research I've been doing. I'll go with you there now. Are you still seeing my screen? Can you give me a thumb up? Yeah, super. Thanks, guys. My support there. So you can see there is two different things. There is the Knurl, the instrument, and there is the lab. In Knurl, there is a lot of info for people that are just want to see what is the instrument, what are the buttons, how does it look like, the tuning system that I apply it and I'm testing. But there is also the part of design. This is very fun because you can see exactly what I'm doing now. It's the phase that I am most focused. My biggest focus at the moment is in this moment. So I test a lot of versions, and you can see all the kind of versions. They have a small story. They explain why I did that, and if someone give me some thoughts, I also mention here. And for this class, I think this part is the most interesting. It's about the system. And this is start more with the circuits that I choose, or the features. Um, I think the features actually, it's actually the best place to see the features is one nice thing I did. Let me see, I forgot where it is. I think it's getting started. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, you can navigate a little bit later. But coming back more for the system, here I explain which buttons I use and why did I organize like this. So basically I have 16 strings, and I found a way to make some cavities between the 4 sets of strings. They are cello strings, of course, and each of these cavities, they have these buttons, and they are composed of something like this: digital buttons, analog, and management. I found this design the best for me for recognition, for gesture expressivity, no, expression. Oh my god, that was way bad. Expressivity, gesture. Never mind. But I found this design of buttons really easy for me to understand when I am playing. Also because the cello, the way that I designed the tuning system, it also works with some kind of, it's composed by a harmonic circle, and then it's of course it's like a kind of like you feel like it's tuned in fifths, so it's also easy to remember which button is in which place. You have to remember it's a rotatable instrument, so of course there is always a confusion if you go for one specific side, where is the button that I want to play. um, and I think this is the main important part for you guys, because here I explain a bit what is reprogrammability in the end. So when you are like when you are performing, um, my intention of bringing programming skills inside of the instrument is that I realize programming give me a very wide range of possibilities. It's an unlimited approach. So you can, of course, let's put a little bit of care here, but you can, if you, well, you have experience programming, you also sense that when you program, or when you use digital programming skills, you can feel very free by the limitations of space, of conditions of gestures, and other things that are more physical. So that's why I was so interested in programming. But programming, when a lot of people, when you're talking about this specific world, a lot of people will think about the keyboard and specific keys. That's why I put the reprogrammable. I started to think, oh, okay, thanks, Peter. My boyfriend. So you think like maybe the keyboards can be also programmed. Maybe you can also redesign them at a certain time. And being a composer, I realized that there is basically like if you go for a wood workshop right now and you want to build a table, you're going to see first the tools that you have there, and you're going to see the wood that you have there. This is limitations, and this also happens when you are a composer or you are a sound artist. You see there is a lot of, you have the tools, your approach, and this is basically already a limitation. So I realized doing like thinking that I could design the system in my performance could be a very big plus for all the possibilities that I could realize during the performance. We don't realize how much limitations we have when we are already starting a composition or artwork. And that's what I wanted to achieve with reprogrammability. I wanted to achieve like a new range of possibilities for gesture expression, and also to facilitate the application of electronic music inside instrumental performance. Now, going back to the visual part, you can see there is a flow chart here, and that's how I found a way. That's the way that I found to focus my how can I say, my head when I am performing. So the main one I have to keep in mind is button number 1, the M1, the modes of performances. So each of those modes, I can have more, but at the moment I have 4. They represent a specific compositional approach. So there is the SM, PM, oops, here is a D, I have to change, AM and PM. So synth modes, detection mode, analog mode, and programming mode. Each of those, as I said, it represents a reprogram compositional approach. So they represent a way of thinking. And in this way, each of those, they are basically very, very different to each other already. Now, going more like if you press a button remote, now you have 2 other options. You can trigger something, or you can rewrite these triggers. And the rewrite is the techniques that I explore in my bachelor about this idea, programmability. I explore 4 of them, which are related to how you can redesign buttons or redesign blocks of codes when you are performing. We can talk more specifically about that later. And the trigger, it's the most the most common approach that you already saw in other interfaces. So you can play one synth, or you can rewrite, or you can stop one O or a group. You can vary, you can change the variables or the data of the variables. So that's the way. And you can also see that the buttons, these ones, the M line, they are usually the same. But for example, the rewrite part, it selects these ones. The rewrite var, it will select. It will select the, like, each of those. They also have some variables inside of it. Yeah, and these ones, they can be changed by this also button. I mean, this button triggers a new design for the D buttons. Super confused. Sorry. Yeah. So this is like a little bit an explanation of what represents each mode. You are welcome to drop some thoughts here, but this was the way that I select and organize my thoughts about each compositional process. So the programming mode, you can imagine more like the reference of light coding, more working with loops. And in each mode, I also test a specific programmable approach. The analog, you can more imagine my influence at the Stockhouse Studio with Sonology. So you plug in inputs and outputs, connecting with cables. I think this image in my head is very special, because in a way it's very manual, but it's also very instantaneous. Like a plug, and there is also a hierarchy. I think hierarchy in analog music of things are very important. Like there's the oscillators, filters, what you plug in and what is inputs and outputs. The synthesis is more like complex compositional process, like synth that's really long and they have a lot of filters and everything already quite fixed. So it's more like fixed synth depths here. Although you can also change a lot of things. And the detection mode, it's more about machine learning. This part is still investigation, but it's at the moment it's working like when I press this mode, it's like a machine. It's evaluating what I am playing, and if I play, for example, a specific frequency, it will trigger something. I don't want to make it so simple like this, so I am thinking how the machine can be more intelligent, like machine learning. So this part's still investigation. You are welcome to check some every time I update things at the GitHub. And yeah, I think that's it for the system. And there's other parts you can have a look. And I have my thoughts about practice as well. One of the things it's also nice to check is about the interactivity part. So I have been, maybe Constantine, Timo Hochland. Yeah. So for the guys that doesn't know, he's a live coder, and we have been working on a collaboration for interactivity. So he's actually controlling my instrument, and I am controlling his interface, controlling in a very broad way. Like I give data for him, and he actually does what he wants to do with it. So and in this way we were really finding very new stuff together, and we found in our key findings of our experiences, everything was very dynamic. So it's basically like if I have another person to play my instrument, so it's really cool. It's very fast, the changes, and everything is we are very together in a way. Like I was also investigating myself and how to approach my instrument for remote performances. So we have actually some kind of live coding things. Now this is more like the part for the performer, but this one we made a platform, me and Herman Grainier, a friend of mine from Synology. He has also a app that calls Distant Touch. Really cool. I can also send you the link later. And we are trying to find a way to bring Knurl in remote performances where people, like in Istanbul, for example, are watching and they can control Knurl. And the Distant Touch is an app that you could control locally, like with buttons and pulse meters. This is still investigation. There is a console sometimes I use for performances. We did different prototypes of that. This is also the same. And of course, if you want to go and collaborate, then I also update this kind of technical information. What is my IP, how you can connect with me, and etc. The lab part, maybe I just talk a bit quick. It's basically the part of my case of studies. I have some reports and the research that I'm doing at the school. There is a lot of people investigating things with me. So, for example, Francesco is my friend. He's a composer, and he's doing neural network. We are checking how we can apply, and if it's necessary or not. Sensors like breathing sensors, heartbeat sensor. Why would that be necessary, or would that improve or enhance music performance if the instrument has more biological data from us? So we are doing this research together. Besides the the collabs. I also have a luthier at Ghent in Brussels, in Belgium, collaborating with me about composites. So we are learning how like plastic, PETG, the material that I use, influence the sound of an instrument. Pretty nice results. I did an album last year about how to create an album of for future for the music for the future of music. This is the interaction collaboration with Timo. So his platform is Mercury, the name. You should check it out because it's really cool for programming, for live coding. This is with Herman. This is with a guy from Synology last year, Michael Kraus. And of course, there is more stuff, but I think that's already enough information. What do you think, Konstantinos? Maybe we can open for questions.
Yes, I have a question for you, Rafaele.
Yeah.
My question is, how easy is for the people to implement this? And I am interested from the perspective of a creator, but also as a performer, because it's very interesting that this kind of instruments, this kind of prototype hybrid instruments, are not only offering the opportunity to write a piece for a prototype such knurl, but actually someone can implement the whole instrument. If he has if they have a 3D printer, they can actually create the whole instrument from scratch, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the software is the software, you can download and have it, but what is the open to kind of, if you like, democratization of this hardware revolution is that someone can download the blueprints of it and have a 3D, somehow have access to a 3D printer and actually create the instrument from scratch, which for me, at least as a creator and performer, it's an amazing idea. So
Yeah.
are there any examples? Are there any people who already did that? And do you have any information about how is this kind of working out for them?
Yeah, what I think this discussion is very related to open source culture, right? I have been in contact with a lot of different approaches for that, and 3D printing design, 3D printing, this community of 3D printing around the world and this movement. It's a great example of how to approach open source. There is a specific phrase I think most of you know or already heard before. That you never give the fish for the ones that are hungry, but you actually have to teach them how to catch the fish. And this was one phrase I saw in a 3D printing seminar. Really nice, because this shows like exactly how the open source business should be designed for. You shouldn't think to just share your code or the most precious things you have been working, your time, your effort, just like, okay, take it, take it global world. But you should find a way to educate the people, and also, like, because it's also a way of making the project alive, and making an instrument be an instrument in the future. A lot of hands, a lot of people working with for. So I would for sure, for example, share the files so that people could print themselves the instrument or even the code. It's more my question at the moment as a researcher is, how am I going to give this opportunity to them? How am I and I want to teach them, you know.
Yes, that's very interesting that you're mentioning the teaching and the education process, because it's not as creators, we're not just responsible for creating and giving away our
Exactly.
stuff and just expecting people to know that, but we're actually also responsible of building some kind of repertoire with this kind of instruments, and that's what I'm also kind of focusing into my personal work. Like I was explaining to the people before our meeting today that I created also a similar instrument, and it's totally open source and available. But also
Mm-hmm.
the funny part of that is that in a way that makes me the most virtuoso performer of that instrument, because there's no one that plays that instrument, so there's no reference. But
Mm-hmm.
utopically speaking, I mean, that's the main purpose, that this we kind of educating and kind of giving away giving away a spark, if you like, that people can actually download and use it and kind of open new routes in their creative workflows. And I think that's very important of this work of Knurl.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back to the repertoire question, are there any compositions that composers have already wrote for this instrument, or you? And are there any examples?
Mostly it was me. Basically, they were part of studies for the creation itself of design. But at the moment, it's coming like Francesco is doing like a more fixed composition. Um, and I think Timo as well a bit, but yeah, Timo was more like improvisation. So at the moment, it's more like it's growing in this part still. So
Mm. And the how easy, I mean, I can understand that it's very powerful, this system, that it can integrate to different musical paradigms. For example, it, as you mentioned, it can you can easily do a live coding performance, which I would like to give us a little bit more information about. How is that communicating with the performers in a level, but that's the one aspect of my question. But I think it's very interesting how this system can integrate in different musical paradigms. For example, I saw you performing this solo, but you saying that can also be part of a live coding performance with a live coder. And I guess that opens the question that what if five of knurls can be in the same piece, and somebody can make a kind of large scale piece with five of them, like a knurl orchestra, including the ramifications to the live coding, etc., etc. But returning to the beginning of my question, how's the knurl is actually communicating with a live coder specifically?
we are using OIC communication. That can be local through a local network, or can be remote network. The only challenge of remote network is that, as we might know, everyone might know, the sound is, of course, has a lot of latency. So independent, yeah, by all the platforms, of course, they are quite different from the time, but they all have latency. So this is an issue Timo and I, we didn't found yet a solution. For audio is okay. There is some solutions, possibilities, but then when you want to implement video, then things get complicated. But for the live coding part, so basically when we are performing together, I send for Timo data for what I am doing. I'm also sending help messages. I actually call the system or dispatch a virus mode, because Corona influence, but also like the fact that Timo is actually a virus to the kernel, and I have a specific OSC definition. Everything is super collided from the patch. So in this OSC definition, I receive a specific message, a specific like format of message, that contains the name of a synth, the name of a variable, or if I wanna just, or he wants to trigger something, or he wants to stop something, he can also do that. At the moment, we just tried that. We also want to try to schedule messages, because in the part of live coding on the Knoll, I actually can basically do P binds, and I can really like schedule events. And we want to try to make Timo to control the events that are coming. And but the key, as I said, the nicest thing about this project was the amount of interactivity and dynamism inside of a performance like this. It's really cool. Like Timo, he worked like he does his live code messages, and he calls Knoll, and then he writes, instead of like a variable, just a number, he actually writes an oscillator, and then I get a lot of variables like with oscillations, like and 1 0 1. It's really cool. It's really something. I think in the future maybe we're gonna see more often in projects.
I'm sorry. I have another question. You are a cello performer, right? Your background is you're a cello performer. I've seen you performing cello pieces, and so you're gaining inspiration from your background as a musician. But I was wondering, how is this for someone that is not a performer, a music performer, necessarily a cello performer, like he's just a digital musician, and he wants to. Is it kind of accessible? I mean, I guess where I'm getting at is how much accessible is for someone that is not an instrumentalist.
Well, I think I'm also doing a subject that calls music and dementia. There's a lot of people in this class that they have difficulties with to express themselves, but also to play. And I discovered, by having this experience with these amazing people, was that actually it's the concept, the aim, the idea about having equality between listener and performer in an instrument is it totally fits for a design that you can rotate, that you have all the strings that you have. So if I answered correctly your question, I think the instrument itself can already have so much possibilities for someone that doesn't have musical technique or practice, but related more for a specific public that has more like a digital approach of music. I think the fact that you have materiality, and you can see things, you can touch, it's already, I don't know, it's for me it's very, very important.
Yeah, I think it's very important that these kind of instruments are also kind of supporting some kind of easy accessibility for people who not necessarily have the background, the musical background to perform such instruments. Because since it's a hardware prototype, why should we repeat the past? I mean, that's just my idea. Why should we have kind of this?
There is also some ideas for the future to implementing different instruments, or like do different versions, like for violin or something, but also thinking more outside of like the box. Maybe make an interface, that you could control even with Bella, or maybe in the computer. I don't know. So there is some ideas like in the clouds still.
Yeah. Since you're mentioning Bella, can you explain us a little bit about, or guide us through a very rough kind of notional diagram where you have Knurl, the hardware instrument, the device, let's say the hardware device, and then you have, as you said, there is some embedded circuitry which transmits data to, is that standalone, by the way, or it should be always run integrated with the software that is running in a computer? Is it like a standalone instrument which has
standalone.
a speaker embedded, etc., etc.?
Yeah, I had a very
Is that, sorry,
fixed objective.
is that a decision you make consciously, that
Yeah.
you want to have a kind of a standalone? No
Yeah, I
computer?
didn't want the computer since the beginning of this project. I mean, I I use computer a lot, but I had I had really like an idea of trying to find a way to make the instruments really separately from the computer, like standalone, as you said.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's very interesting, because that kind of gives to the knurl a little bit of more uh, kind of freedom and independence of any other apparatus that you require. And I guess you can always kind of extend it by sending to any computer, I guess, in that level, right?
Yeah. Yeah, even from cables, because because it's rotatable, and it's also a matter of the amount of effort and stress you have for setups. I make knurl with Wi-Fi now, so I can access the instrument without a USB.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can say wireless, not a Wi-Fi, but and also like there is a specific project at Bell as well that it's actually implementing a system where you can add in the hardware of Bella um, like a specific yeah, it's a specific thing. I forgot the name. I think it's chip the name.
Mm-hmm.
But then actually you send radio signals for the computer from your sound, so you don't need even input like a cable for the sound. So that's something really cool. I'm thinking to do too.
This kind of change in terms of performance habits now as a musician, how did change your perception about performing? Do you do online performances? Is knurl able to transmit data through network? Are there any capabilities such as like that, so you can open up another dimension where you can collaborate and interact with other musicians across the network, with, of course, with the unfortunate
that would be cool, actually.
Is there something like that? That's one question I have. The other question I have, I'm sorry, I'm taking the time for the questions, is that so you're kind of, as a musician, you're also kind of partly programmer, performer, composer, and 3D printer engineer. And what do you think about this kind of new kind of amalgama and the hybrid musician that we actually, us digital musicians are actually not challenged, but actually are kind of asked by the craft to comply with? What is your reflection on that? Now, there is no certain roles we are actually fulfilling right now as digital musicians. We are programmers, we're musicians, we're composers and performers, and at the same time we have to debug our own bad software, so we're also software engineers. So how do you reflect on this kind of situation?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the amount of that knowledge that we nowadays have to have in our curriculum. It's I don't know. It's completely crazy. Yesterday, also my partner, he mentioned um, he saw in something like a journal that the amount of visual things we're receiving at this moment already for a year, it's more than someone that is in the mid-grade age. Like we have so much information nowadays and so much knowledge. It's completely crazy. My thoughts, of course, goes like a little bit of goes for a precaution point of view. Like I cannot say too much because of course I as you saw, like in explained, I invoked a lot of knowledge together. But and of course we think like, oh, is this a good idea? But in the end, art, the way that we compose things, they always go for a transdisciplinarity approach. So
Yes.
we are trying to collide things even when we don't want.
Yes.
And I guess that's how we create ourselves as artists. We just like collide things, collect, and then suddenly you have this
Mingle them
bubble of,
and
yeah,
make something like a bricolage idea where you're taking different
exactly,
things and making something new of it. Yeah, that's very good stuff. I
yeah,
totally agree with you when I see that kind of younger generations more and more are kind of embracing this idea of fulfilling various roles and not caring about labelization and specialization, like, you know,
yeah.
things like. But I'm not gonna take more of the time. There is one question, I think, from Tuna and one question from Serkan. I think Serkan can make the question. Serkan?
Hello, Rafaele. Thank
Hey,
you for
Sarko,
joining us tonight.
you're
It was
welcome.
really, it was
Thank you
really a
for being
pleasure.
here.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure to see you here, and your presentation is very exciting. I have a couple of questions. First of all, as far as I understand, the KNUR is, I think, more like a platform than a single digital instrument, because it's very expensive in terms of it touches the hardware, it touches the software, and in different approaches like live coding and machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of offering collaboration between several researchers or artists, because I think it needs many people to work on it, and there can be many interesting projects out of the KNUR.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really the very exciting part of your project, because it's very fruitful. It can be used for many artistic projects.
Mm-hmm.
And one question is, I think you already mentioned there is a wireless communication in your Bella board.
Yes.
Because I was asking how is the communication between the Bella and the computer that runs the Bella with live coding. So they're transmitting the data through Wi-Fi or similar.
Yeah. Usually you have to like you have to plug Bella in a USB cable to your computer, and you access the ID via internet. Now I connected in a way that it's not working. Give me my cello. Sorry guys, I hanged my cello today in the wall. It was quite it was quite dangerous, and Peter, my boyfriend, saw like, oh no, girl, you're gonna lose your cello. Now what I was saying, thanks. Okay, Peter, this is a formal presentation. Oh yeah, so the actually you can go to the Bella platform, and there is a way to hack, like to program a bit and connect a Wi-Fi dongle in your Bella, so you don't need a cable. I did that mainly because of the fact that my instrument rotates, but also I broke my Bella, I think 3 weeks ago. Uh, like they have the USB female port is really fragile, and of course I am doing prototypes, and of course it broke some at some moment.
And it's
This
not a
happens.
cheap board.
Well, it's a Vigo bone. It's 50
Yeah.
euros. It's quite expensive.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I have one, and I'm trying to very fragile
Uh-huh.
because it was kind of investment. I
Yeah,
also
it is right.
bought the other shield to make it multi-expansion, to
Cool.
get
Mm-hmm.
out of several more output out of it. So yeah, we have to be very careful when using it. And another question I want to ask is, how would you implement the machine learning into the code that runs Super Collider in Bella?
Yeah, that's a thing I am collecting knowledge in thinking about it, because I am using a Super Collider, and with JavaScript or HTML, you have examples of how to proceed that. But basically, like, as far as I collected, there's some ways of doing that. I would have to find a way to collect information, some kind of dictionary format, and then with these informations, I would have to compose a system that composes a system.
Yeah.
Some kind of could be also some OSC definition. That could be also a pbind. Pbind, yeah, pbind.
Yeah.
That's,
So the machine learning training and all the stuff will be on a separate computer maybe, and then the result will be transferred to the Bella as a data, so you can map them into
that could be approach. I like approaching in a way that everything could be inside of Neural already. So I am doing investigations to make the patch already in the instrument. So I don't need extra stuff. But we'll see. We'll see. If you are interested to collaborate in the future.
Okay, thank you. And also, what is interesting is the other people from not on the site, they can communicate with your instrument through OSC. So
yeah, that's really cool, and it's so easy to apply.
yeah, and I'm also working on a kind of OSC server for this kind of projects. We are testing it. Maybe we can test something later.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Just drop me a message.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think this meeting is already successful. We have potential collaborations already. I think there's a question by Tuna. He has a question.
Yeah, I'm just going to have one tiny question, but
okay.
I mean, it happens to be the diametrical opposite of the question that Konstantinos asked 2 or 3 questions ago, if I'm not mistaken. I was just going to ask you whether, Konstantinos asked you whether if it was kind of an alienating experience for people who are non-musicians or people who have not, specialized in any sort of classical instrument per se. But in order, I consider you to be a creator that is, an example of a new and different breed of musicians. And considering with what you earlier said when you just, in the beginning of the live stream, that the illiterate of 21st century are going to be the ones who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I would like to, in light of that, ask you this question about how much of an entry barrier does GNU has for classical cellists. Did you even have have the opportunity to receive some sort of feedback from other classical cellists or people like that, or did they find it intuitive or the skill set that they already have transferable to that particular instrument?
Yeah.
Before Rafaele responds to that, I'm sorry, I have to intervene. Actually, Rafaele didn't mention the Alvin Toffler quotation. It was me, Tuna, just to make sure I'm not putting words in the mouth of Rafaele, but that was me just to as an opening quotation, as a kind of a spark to the discussion of Rafaele, because I was kind of having this kind of links with her work. So please, Rafaele. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Tuna. Really nice question. Yes, I received. I have actually a supervision for cello performance still from René van Mooster. He's the cellist from the Cello Octet. He's a really nice guy, and he actually is every class we have, or classes takes, I don't know, 2 hours, an hour and a half, and we go like from improvising to design, to try Knurl, see what is missing. For example, like I had a class last weekend, and we had a specific discussion about tone, because at the cello, we like when we are playing, there is we have a reference of where we are playing by the thumb, like where our thumb is positioned. And I have discovered this as I mentioned, and we found out that they have to be very deep here in the bottom, because from until the fifth position, I have to have my thumb in, like inside. But and then here I don't need like the thumb. I mean, I use the thumb like this. So from these classes, that I bring a lot of info for the design itself. I activated the synth to stop.
What the heck?
So does that answer your question, Tuna, or do you want to?
Yes. I was, trying to ascertain to what extent, a regular skill set for a cellist is applicable to Knurl. But I guess, you have to bring something to the table, and you got to pick something up on the go in order to be successful or, fruitful in this particular instrument that you invented. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have a question from a YouTube channel, and the question is from Onur Dağdeviren. He's another student from the Sonic Arts that is actually participating this session from a YouTube channel of the Sonic Arts. And his question is, in perspective of mapping, since Knurl is a hybrid instrument, playing it can be divided into two sections, the acoustic part and the digital part. And he's continuing, acoustic part is bounded by physical world like a violoncello. But what kind of approach you had for digital mapping part? What was your initial thought at beginning, and what challenges you had to overcome about mapping?
Super nice question. I made a very nice. I participated from a project from Mariah Bauman. She's writing a book about mapping my map. No, mapping my mapping. Really cool. You should check it out, guys. And we actually, the workshop, or like the discussions were all about how to map, organize a digital system. At my project specifically, there was always this intention of making a hybrid instrument. So so the challenges of designing the digital part was basically more the human way of processing things. So, for example, in the beginning, I of course I would want a lot of things, but then you realize we always think in a tree, like in this way I showed you guys, like there is a specific hierarchy in the way that we process knowledge or ways of selecting things. And in the digital system, when I was testing, prototyping, testing, design, finding issues, collecting information, I realized, okay, so design some kind of tree could help to idealize a system that could be simple, could have an easy approach, could go further in complexity, but it could also still be approachable in a human side. So that was one of the main thoughts I found out about that.
Great. I think we are coming into the end of the session. So what is the next goals with Knurl? What is the future directions as final remarks?
Wow, there's so much. Now my approach now is I'm going for a second phase of this project, which is really collaborations, because that's the best way to really bring up a project is just collabing with people and seeing what is working, what is not. But in the design part, I'm getting very close to a final, if you can consider that a final shape for, I don't know, a future application. Like if I want to share the files or want to sell as a product in the future. But I'm also just researching a bit about post-processing techniques of 3D printing. I use PETG, as I said, it's recycled. But the way that we manufacture 3D printing with this kind of FDM processing, printing processing, which is this kind of addition layers, like we're composing by layers. They are not, they're not made to make isotropic materials. And for lutheria, for music instrument design, you have to have materials that they are isotropic. They send the sound for a specific direction, and they can support all the strings that are result from the format. So I am investigating that. I have to make some investigations with salt. There's some ways of putting in an oven and like melting again your part, and then you can have a part that has not so much. In terms of collabs, the design, and also like the part of composition, I want to be more focused now. So make some kind of small studies so that I can see how many possibilities I could bring with this new design for a cello performance or cello technique.
Great stuff, Rafaele. We hope you have very creative directions, and we hope to see more from Knorl in the not so long future. I would like to thank you very much for joining us today and giving us this detailed overview of Knorl and the reprogrammability concept. And I think now
thank you so much.
We thank you. And okay, so now I'm going to finish the stream, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. See you soon, I guess.
Yes, thank you so much for your questions, guys. Super nice to meet you virtually.
Yes.
And yeah, let me know about your projects. I love to meet new people and see new faces, new approaches.
Yes, this is one of the reasons we do this session, so we can open up to the world and have new collaborations and new ideas coming in, even in this kind of unprecedented circumstances we are actually having to go through. Thank you very much, and good night to everyone.
Thank you, guys.